You are listening to episode 174 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we're left picking up the pieces in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So this week we played Pieces on the Super Nintendo, and I was smashed to pieces in this game, unfortunately.
This is a weird, old competitive puzzler, and I was happy to have all of my vast puzzling skills put to the test.
We'll talk about it a little deeper, but as we get to that inflation deflation segment at the end here, but I am torn, Ryan. You absolutely demolished me in puzzle building today.
Torn to pieces.
Whoever thought competitive puzzle building could actually be fun. All right, so this week we got a slew of topics, one of them being a new Xbox console, possibly leaked. Russia reportedly legalizes piracy of games, movies, and more. What a time to be alive, I guess. Nintendo Switch Online gets 3 overdue features, and they're pretty overdue when I read that list. So, as always, let's get started for recent pickups. Dude, I don't have a ton here, so I'll just go through and say I picked up some Magic cards, which are sitting right here. My wife goes crazy every time I get new cards. This is for the RuneForge Rune deck. So it's like a green, red, white deck where you pretty much throw down a RuneForge champion who's a dwarf warrior, and you throw down a crap ton of enchantment auras, and it just boosts them up to like stupid levels, and you can play them for free. Nice. So like you have one card that like lowers the value by 1, and then you have him lowering the value by 1 with 2-drop runes. So like I've seen it played against me, and I've beat the deck and then also tied against the deck. And so you pretty much have these 2 cards on the field, and you're like, okay, I'll draw a card. Oh, look, I play it for free. That triggers this ability. I draw another card. I play it for free. And you just keep doing the same shit.
And just keep building
the whole time. And then, so you're like basically swinging with a 2020 lifelink creature with haste or whatever. Like, It's stupid how it works out. So I got that. It's a super cheap build, except for the land. I got to pick up the land at some point. I have a lot of them, actually. So that was that on pickups. And then I guess you can count this as a pickup. I went up to my loft, I picked up Ocarina of Time, and I threw it into my N64, or placed it. We'll say placed, because that's going to trigger a lot of people. I placed it into my N64. Did not blow on a cartridge.
For the first time ever.
No, not the first time ever. I have messed with it before. But I went ahead and played, I don't know how many hours. I'm in the one village. What did you say it was called?
Kakariko Village.
Kakariko Village with the cuckoos or whatever, or... Yeah, I think it's cuckoos. The chickens. When you attack the chickens and they all attack you and chase you. So I'm dealing with that. What are the skull spider things? The skulltulas? Skulltulas, yeah. Dude, I'm absolutely terrible with names. Like, there's going to be so many people out there who are going to bitch us because of this episode. But long story short, I'm actually playing it.
It's a well-known thing. I mean, it's one of those things we talked about. It's just a glaring spot for you. And by the end of this, if you still don't know all the names, then people will roast you.
That, or at the end of it, I'm going to be like, this is overhyped. And then they're still going to bitch at me. Because, like, so far, I mean, look, I'll tell you. So far, in the first, 3 hours of this game, I'm like, it's kind of overhyped. So far, in the first 3 hours. But I know it gets better. Are
you talking some sequelitis right now?
Sequelitis?
Yeah, Ego Raptor has this old video where he rips on Zelda 64 for not being all that great, and it was like a huge internet thing.
So, no, that's funny. So one of the things
Zelda 64?
You did.
Oh, that's weird.
You did.
Why would I say that?
I don't know why you did, but it's Ocarina of Time. So I'll say the one pet peeve I have in this game is every time you save somewhere, it shoots you right back to your original village in the forest. Every time.
Really?
Yeah. So the other day, and I thought if you were in a dungeon or going through one of those or in the middle of something, that it was supposed to keep you there.
It should save where you're at. You shouldn't have to start from the village every time.
It saves where you're at, and it shoots you right on back to that village every time, without fail. So it's very frustrating when you save in a specific spot and you're like, all right, cool, I'll come back to this, tomorrow. And then you boot up the game and you're back in your house You're like, I've got to go all the way across to Hyrule, plains or grasslands or whatever it is at this point, Hyrule Fields, and make my way to whatever location I was at. Like that's kind of frustrating. I didn't anticipate it to be as bad on the TV, playing an N64 on a flat screen as it is. Like Conker's wasn't that bad, and I played some Banjo-Kazooie on like my 4K TV. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this game is absolutely horrible on a larger TV. I don't know what it is, man. It's just not. It's not as crisp as some of the other N64 games I played on like similar TVs. So
it says if you're in a dungeon, you should start back at the beginning of the dungeon.
Yeah. So
but everywhere else, if you save and quit, you'll start.
So
back
I
at
actually
Link's house.
I saved in a dungeon. I don't know if it's by choice, like different dungeons.
Maybe it wasn't a real dungeon. Maybe it was a fake dungeon.
I guess. I mean, it had enemies in it, and I had to traverse through it through different gates and figure out puzzles.
Okay, where were you?
Were
you at Death Mountain yet, or were you just in like Hyrule Field?
No, you know what? It was a graveyard, and I went underneath, so I don't think that was a true dungeon.
No, like once you get to like Death Mountain or go to like the Water Temple or something like that, like, if you save in there, you'll just start at the beginning of that place.
Yeah, which is fine in that regard, but it's frustrating when you're like, I'm gonna play a couple hours tonight, do a couple like small missions, and then come back, tomorrow. And it shoots you right back at the village. You're like, crap, what was I doing? All right, I got to check, what I wrote down as far as the last location I was in. Like, I'm having to get in that habit of notating where I was at prior to, so I don't forget the next day or a few days from then.
I love games that have like a feature where you boot it up and it like tells you like the last few things you were doing before you stopped. Like at one point, the Pokemon games started doing that. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I wish it did that, but it doesn't. So I'm actually considering buying an upscaler specifically for this game, but I'm also considering that when I play Majora's Mask, that I'm going to go ahead and play it on the GameCube.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you considered that it's just a really old game and it's just not going to look that great?
I wanted to play it on the original hardware, but it's kind of, I'm early enough in that I could theoretically start over if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So I want to play it on the original hardware. And then when I play Majora's Mask, I'll go ahead and play that on GameCube.
Okay.
Or 3DS or something at that point. Probably GameCube, because I prefer that controller. And it has been interesting with the Brawler 64 controller so far, because you have the two Z buttons. You don't have one traditional Z button. So, and when you're playing Zelda, you have to, of course, lock on enemies and whatnot, or lock on and then use your shield with the R button. So I'm sitting there like, trying to figure it out, so I'm like moving and I have to hit like one Z button, and there's times where I like awkwardly press the Z button on the right of the controller plus the R, and it's the weirdest thing, dude. But I'm getting the hang of it, and it's going. We'll see. I hope it gets better so far, because as of right now, I'm not super impressed, but I'm only a few hours in.
Yeah,
I've only learned a few songs, and that's actually kind of fun to play the songs. But yeah, that's where we're at. That's it for me, man. What did you have picked up?
So I have played so much Elden Ring at this point. I went on my Xbox Game Pass the other day. I downloaded Donut County, and I played like 20 minutes of that just to have like a little zen moment, just to step away from all of the torture and the pain. And then after doing that for a little while, that was cute. That was fun. I jumped right back into it. I am at like 96 plus hours. I am level 88. I am over halfway through the game. I made a Twitter post I recorded a screen capture of me just like wrecking this like little field boss dude like in my first try. And I'm starting to feel pretty confident. Last night I was really thinking about respecking my character to try something else. Because at this point, I've got like the item that you can use to like respec. I've got like 11 of them. And I've used one before, and I'm like, man, I could try like all kinds of other different builds and stuff. And then this morning when I was looking at like trying to get a feel for some of the movesets for some of the other weapons, and I don't know if it one-to-one translates or not, but like I know that if you don't have the required stats, it tells you don't have the required stats. Yeah. And then some of the moves I don't think do everything that they're supposed to, like the special abilities that might have like some kind of magic or associated with them probably don't trigger because you don't meet the minimum requirement. So it's like it's hard to thoroughly test out like what weapon might I really want to respec into before I commit to doing the respec. Even though I can always just respec and then do it again back to my original thing if I, just take a picture of my stats. Like that would be super easy. So I just haven't committed to messing around with it yet, but I'll probably wind up doing that at some point. I absolutely love this game. I can't believe how much more game is left in this still. Like, I got to the point where, we all reach where it's like, oh my God, there's this huge boss. I got to fight this huge boss. I can't move forward until I get through this wall of this boss. And then it's like one of those things, you walk away and then you sit down and you just do it like casually your first try, So I think that maybe elongating the rest of my play and not like sitting down and cramming as much time as I have been into it. It's probably what I'm going to do moving forward, just because I'm going to have some more things coming up. If you're not playing it, play it. If you have never played a Dark Souls game, this is the Dark Souls game to play. I'm never going to stop talking about this until I'm done or
decide you can't beat it.
Something else happens. I don't know. I'm trying to think what's the next game that I'm gonna get at this point. I did download the Guardians of the Galaxy game because that's on Game Pass now, and I've been interested in checking that out. I'm very excited for the Kirby game, and that's gonna be out in a few weeks. So
as far as Donut County is concerned, what did you think about the first level of that?
I mean, it's just like a simple little fun game. Have you ever played it?
Not yet. Is it kind of like that Katamari type of style where you just kind of go around and...
Yeah, so instead of having a ball that you roll up things to get bigger, you're a hole and you suck up things and you get bigger.
Gotcha.
And so you've got like a cute little diorama and you just go from the smallest things to the biggest things and suck them up. And I'm sure there's probably some challenges. Like the first level, you're in like this backyard of this potter and you can see like these pots drying on these rails. And if they hit the ground, they break. I'm wondering if there's like a challenge to like be able to suck them all up without breaking any of them or something.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that reminds me. I actually got... I beat a boss that I guess must be like an optional boss. And I got a 8.7%... what do they call it? Not gamer score. Achievement.
Oh, yeah. So I guess, that's not bad.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm doing stuff that not everybody's doing, or maybe I've made it further in the game than a lot of people have. I mean, it's crazy when I hear other people talking about like, oh yeah, I beat this game in like 50 hours. It's like, dude, I put twice as much time and I'm only halfway through. Like the amount of time that I must have spent wandering and beating my head against a wall. Like how many of these people just like smash the boss on like their third try?
Well, I mean, like when it comes to Souls games, I'm kind of like you in that regard. I like to level up. I like to kill different things. I like to explore the world and all facets of it. And, not everybody does that when they play. Like, there's apparently some person beat Elden Ring in an hour.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Okay, like, I haven't read the full article or watched any video or anything, but, like, come on. Like, you're really going to play this game and beat it in an hour, or you're going to beat it in 30 hours or 40 hours. Like, there's so much to do, and there's so much that's been put into this title. Why would you want to do that? Like,
well, I mean, speedrunning's, you got to do it for the fame.
I guess, but like, it's a damn good game apparently. So
they'll go back and play it the right way later.
Maybe.
Or I mean, not the right way. There is no right way.
Oh, there's a right way. It's enjoying it, taking it all in, destroying all the enemies.
Speedrunners they put more time. Like anybody who's speedrunning Elden Ring in an hour is going to put more time in that game in their life than I'm ever going to put in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I just think the enjoyment component, right? Like you're taking this leisure approach and enjoying the game and what has been developed. And I think when I look at speedrunning, it's more so like this is a job. Like I have to go through, I have to do this, I have to do that. I have to make sure everything is pinpoint accurate as I go through this game. And I feel like you lose some of the elements of enjoyment in that regard. But they're enjoying it as well when they do that, I guess.
Well, and they probably do a regular playthrough at some point.
Maybe. I don't know. Depends on how many games are speedrunning. Again, I don't have a PS5 yet, so I can't play this game yet because I'm not going to play it on an older console. I'm waiting for that PS5. What I may do after I beat Ocarina of Time and maybe beat Majora's Mask right after, or I may play into Neo again just to get that, that kind of Souls game vibe where it's just getting good. So we'll see. But good to know that you're enjoying yourself and you've almost hit the 100-hour mark, man. That's quite a feat.
I know.
Too bad you couldn't do that with Persona.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was an insurmountable wall.
Was it just not that good at the end of the day?
I don't know, man. I have a hard time getting pulled into certain things lately. Like I talked about with Mario. I was just telling my friend about this the other day. Like, I liked Odyssey. It was great. There's not a bad thing I can really say about it, but it's like I'm not really super compelled to do more Mario stuff right now. It's like I had a really good time with Forza while I was playing that. Zero interest in Gran Turismo 7. Certain game types just aren't as compelling to me anymore, and it's like I'm excited to play more Elden Ring. I'm not really excited to read more Persona and do turn-based battling. It doesn't excite me no matter how good the games are supposed to be. It's just not what's motivating me right now to keep playing.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, I need to get into a turn-based RPG at some point here pretty soon. I've been just so busy. Haven't had a chance. All right. Well, we're going to start diving into
Didn't you just finish Pokemon?
It's not turn-based. I mean, it is, but it's not. Yeah.
You click your Pokemon and tell them what to do.
True. But, I'm talking JR. Well, I guess it technically is a JRPG. You know
Bested,
what I
sir.
mean.
Bested.
You know what I mean.
Get Triangle Strategy.
I know. I need to get that.
Although that's a tactical RPG.
Yeah. No, it is. And so's, what's the other one? It looks like Triangle Strategy. I don't know. Blanking right now. So many games, dude. Just way too many. No, you know what I mean. No, I'm talking like the traditional Final Fantasy turn-based where you have your 3 characters and that's
Octopath?
Octopath Traveler, that's the one. I think that's tactical too, isn't it?
No,
that one is regular. Yeah, dude. Like I said, so many games. Hard to keep track of everything.
So many games.
All right. Before we dive into our titles, or not titles, but our topics this week, you can find this episode of Game Deflators Podcast on thegameflators.com. So visit us there. You can leave a 5-star review, if not higher, on your podcast application you're listening to now, and find us on all of those other great podcast apps that are out there. You can also find us on social media at Game Deflators on Twitter, at The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook. All right. So the first thing we have here is Tyler Fisher at comicbook.com. We really need to just have Tyler on the show, and he can just give us the articles firsthand. This is a new Xbox console has possibly been leaked. So, Ryan...
Welcome to the Tyler Fisher and Friends podcast, starring the Game Deflators.
That's pretty much what it is. Did you see... You didn't probably see it, but Premium Edition Games they're redoing their Playcast podcast or whatever. And so, I guess Barry or somebody from the team, I think it was somebody from their team, put up a thing that says, hey, what should we name the podcast? Should it be Premium Playcast? Should it be whatever the other title was? And I said, I like Premium Playcast, but I prefer the Barry Carenza experience with friends. That would be so much better, dude. All right. So what are your thoughts on this, man? I know it's not and one thing the preface here is we're not saying that there is a new Xbox console that's going to, be the next gen here. We're talking iterations of consoles.
So when I heard this news first presented, because it does look like it is a hardware type product, not necessarily an accessory, but it could be. I was hearing this originally pitched as potentially being some sort of streaming stick for Game Pass, the equivalent of a Fire Stick or a Chromecast or a Roku, something like that. You'd plug into your TV, hook it up to the Wi-Fi, or if you got the Stadium Bundle Chromecast, it actually had the power adapter had an extra outlet on it to run Ethernet to your modem or your router so that you could hardline your Stadia to connect so you didn't have to rely on Wi-Fi. I thought that was pretty smart. So, I mean, if Xbox just comes up with some fancy little stick you plug into your TV or whatever screen you have, and then you can just remotely connect to, whatever controller you have, and sells it for $100, or for $150 you buy, this little stick and it comes bundled with an Xbox controller and you're good to go on Game Pass. I think that would be probably the most feasible thing for them to try to reach for at this point. I don't think that they need a third power level of console right now. I mean, the Series X and all the performances that I've seen where they're testing it against PS5 for like a lot of stuff on like Digital Foundry, like it's performing great. Like they don't need to all of a sudden come up with a more expensive system to try to outpower the PS5, and they don't need a lower power system because they already have the Series S. You wouldn't go any lower than that. So really a streaming only, access, a keystone, something you just give you access. I think that's what this would be. And I mean, if I was more interested in streaming and not being able to, like download and play it natively at least, this might have even been like a good option for me. Like if I already had a PS5, but I just wanted Game Pass, why buy a whole Xbox?
Yeah.
Well,
the interesting thing on this is that they say it could potentially be a console based on the Keystone name that's linked to it. So it's Xbox Keystone is what it's been leaked as. But there's possibility that it's some sort of accessory at the same time. So, honestly, my thought is all this is going to be is like what we saw with the PlayStation 5 earlier in the year, where they like ripped out however many pieces, replaced it with like lighter pieces of like aluminum or whatever it might have been that they included in there.
They cut that like huge heat sink in half.
Heat sink was cut in half, which sucks because like I would want the other heat sink, of course, in a console. But heat sink was cut in half, and you have this new console came out. There were no leaks on that, obviously, of like a new PS5. I think we had just kind of said, hey, there's a new PS5
they
based
changed
on
like
this.
a slight number in the model or something.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And then like Nintendo had a thing a while back, or has had several revisions where battery power has been changed, and there's been leaks on that type of stuff as well. So that's really honestly what I think this is.
It's just an edit.
I think Microsoft is jumping into this console, maybe just the Series X. I think the Series S is priced perfectly where it's at. I don't know if they need to do anything there other than maybe, if there is a way to like reduce usage of certain pieces of metal and whatnot, or, go into cheaper chips, whatever it may be. But I think this is just revision of the existing console, and that's all we're seeing here. But we'll find out more, man. Maybe Keystone is like this big, crazy like attachment that you include to your console for streaming and such. Like...
It's like a 32X attachment.
30. Can you imagine? It's like, no, dude, it's like the GameCube, like the thing underneath the Game Boy Advance player. It's like an extra brick, essentially, that's put on top of your brick or underneath, and it just like raises the size of this tower.
Have you seen, there's a video I favorited once. I don't know that I actually ever watched it. I put it in like my watch later, but it was like this GameCube that had like every GameCube accessory all plugged into it at one time, and it was like this huge monstrosity.
I would love to do that, man. Just own all of those attachments and have them working at the same time. Be fantastic. Same thing with like the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Like you haven't seen my true form, and it's like it blows up in this huge thing. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. So who knows, man? Maybe like over the years, Microsoft just adds more and more pieces to the tower, and it's like Xbox Jenga. It's just like this large-ass tower that you have in your house for gaming.
I want to make Jenga out of Xboxes.
That'd be pretty badass.
They're square enough you could do it.
Yeah, I think you could. So, all right. I think that's enough on that one. The next topic we have here is that Russia is reportedly legalizing piracy of games, movies, and more. And this is Ryan Leston at IGN. And so the idea here is that due to all of the sanctions that are being put on Russia by the global community, and Hollywood as well, of course, being included in that, and all of the game companies that we had previously talked on. I think it was the last episode actually we talked about this, where Sony and Microsoft are no longer selling products out there. They're basically saying, all right, cool. Government's like, pirate all you want, evidently, is what this is reading out as. And it makes sense. If you're not going to be able to get the stuff legally, well, hit those studios and such where it hurts. Steal the stuff, right?
I mean, I feel like this was probably, a dumb response. Like, I don't know that state-sanctioned piracy is going to get a lot of people motivated. Like, if you had never pirated a movie before, for the most part, I don't think it's the legality that is stopping people.
No,
it's the
totally
not knowing how, or not caring enough, or not having access.
Well, but you have people that know, hey, pirating exists. I could download this thing illegally. I could do whatever it is, right? Those people could, like, there's things I know I could probably pirate. Do I do it? No, not necessarily, because why would I if it's illegal? So there's people that kind of know it's there and try to stay in the lines of what's legal, and then there's people out there that don't care. This opens it up for the people that know it's there. And on top of that, in a sense, if all of these, individuals in the country, are hurting, of course, from these sanctions, and many of them don't necessarily support the war. So you're hurting those people as well with these sanctions, and the government's coming in just saying, look, go ahead and, it's legal. Go ahead and pirate. Do what you want so you can have the enjoyment of the things that we're being sanctioned on right now. And I think that's probably part of that propaganda scheme too, though.
Yeah, if they're planning on being cut off for the rest of the world for, the foreseeable future and on, I just don't know, like, how do these companies react? Like, we know that Nintendo will hold a grudge. If all of a sudden you say, yeah, go ahead, pirate all the Nintendo games, and then once things settle down and the sanctions relax, I could see Nintendo being like, we're never going to sell Nintendo stuff in your country ever again because you did that and you screwed us, and we won't let that happen.
That, or Nintendo takes it to the next step, contacts Bandai Namco and brings in giant Gundams to invade and destroy all of the Nintendo consoles in existence.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I could just see it happening, dude. Like, Nintendo would go to great lengths for piracy.
But, like, that's the thing. Like, it's an immediate reaction to saying, okay, you're not going to give us what we want, so everybody feel free to take it. And, like, I don't know how far the ramifications go down the road in the future, because, eventually those companies are going to want to keep making money from that market. And ultimately, it sucks that the Russian people are being punished for what their government is doing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's just how this works, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. The kind of funny component of it, I think, is, we hate the West, but we damn sure love Hollywood's movies.
Right? Who doesn't?
Go ahead and pirate them. Yeah, I mean, and I don't think this will have, like, a crazy impact either on, like, the gaming industry as a whole, because, I mean, you're talking one country that is looking to legalize this. It's not like, on a global basis, countries are saying, yeah, go ahead and pirate all of these things. This is more so just, in a sense, a weak answer to sanctions that are actively going on in the country.
The one thing I thought was really interesting too in this is, like, the way that it was worded.
Well, and
let me see if I can find.
Aren't a lot of internet companies, and, like, they've talked about how Russia's being cut off from the global internet in a sense. So if they become like this pariah state and don't really have access to a lot of these, like, things within the world, it's going to be fairly difficult, I imagine, even start pirating down the road. I would think. I mean, if you're a pirate, you're a pirate. You're gonna know what to do. But for those that are not as, like, savvy, it's going to be difficult, I feel.
So here's what it says. So it says Russian companies have no obligation to pay patent holders for the use of intellectual property. So before I thought of, like, the piracy aspect, or I guess not before because it was the headline for the article, but I was like, okay, so what if Russia just starts knocking off stuff and putting it out? Like, are we going to see Russian Mickey Mouse and Russian Mario Bros start making their way? Because they're like, whatever, dude, you're not going to send us your content. We'll make our own Marios.
I would love to see Russian Mario.
Russian Fantasy VII Remake.
So bad, dude. God, there was something else I was going to bring up to you. I'm spacing on it, dude. This is totally outside of video games, but I think that also counts towards, like, the restaurants and stuff that shut down. So you're going to have, like, McDonald's locations that are not being funded by McDonald's or supported with any of their products that are...
Build a McDonald's. Put a McDonald's in there. You guys have the infrastructure. Just seize that building. Put all the people back to work.
Well, that's what apparently I think they're doing is they're taking, like, a lot of these existing, like, the planes. Like, apparently I was reading an article, like, all of the planes that are sitting in that country from, like, different organizations globally, they're like, we're never going to get those planes back. Mm-hmm. Like, there's, I don't know, some, like, $200 billion that are owed to, like, U.S. banks. They're never going to see that money.
Yeah.
Like, it's just stuff like that. So I really do wonder, like, how this is going to go long term for gaming in Russia? Like, are we going to see where it's kind of like back in the high school days where you kind of had somebody with like bootleg DVDs that they kind of recorded in the theater? Are you going to have somebody like in your high schools kind of like bootleg cartridges and stuff of Nintendo? Like, I really question like how this is going to look moving forward, and I'd be curious to see it, but at the same time, I don't want to see it. I want to see all of this resolve at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine like, I wonder. I haven't really been following it in a while, like the Dota scene, but like there were several Russian teams. Like, I mean, I don't know if they're participating anymore. I haven't
Probably
really looked
not.
into that kind of stuff.
I doubt it. I haven't looked into it, but I would say you could probably.
This article here references the Twitch streamers aren't getting paid in Russia.
They cut that off too. So if there was a Dota team, probably isn't now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks overall for those people, but that's the reality of the situation and what's going on. So, all right. Jumping into, more Nintendo stuff, seeing as there may be a chance for to team up with Bandai Namco for Gundams. Nintendo Switch Online gets 3 long overdue features. And again, the Tyler Fisher with Friends show. So it's Tyler Fisher at comicbook.com. And the 3 features on here, I think, are just dumb as all hell. Like, why these were not included from the very get-go, I will never understand. So just the list itself. The app's overall design has been updated. I don't see that as a key feature, but you can now see which of your friends are online. How the hell are you going to release an online service where you can't see your friends online? You can change your online status settings. That's actually a pretty cool feature. I wouldn't have expected that to be online because I don't think I could technically do that for Sony. I probably could.
You can set yourself to like away or appear offline.
Okay, so you got that. You can view your friend code. Why could you not view your friend code until now? Like, that makes no sense. And then there's also other minor changes that have apparently been added. They're saying that a lot of the reason for these new changes and things that are now starting to develop is because of the expansion pack and the fact that people are putting more money into the service, right? Who would have thought that if you put more money into the online service, you would get a better user experience? I don't know why Nintendo didn't think of this before.
Well, I mean, or think that it could work the other way, that if you put time into the user experience, it might generate more money.
Yeah.
Because this thing is like, for the most part, the Nintendo online service is only used to play Nintendo games with people. Yeah. Like, you can buy a Switch and play Fortnite. You don't have to pay a dime to Nintendo to do that. Yeah. So the prospect here for Nintendo is hopefully, all right, let's play catch up on the last 10 years that we've been wildly behind on our UI and our user experience interface, experience online with like not even having voice chat. Like, we know Nintendo's super opposed to that. Whether or not they ever decide to integrate voice chat, who knows?
The fact that you have to go on Discord to talk to your friends to play a game like this is ridiculous.
Well, or use the app.
Yeah, or the app.
But like, hopefully they are able to take these features, look outside of their little box at what everybody else has been doing, like I said, for a decade, and move all of that knowledge forward into the next system. Make sure that all of our online purchases move forward into the next system. Let's keep this ball rolling forward here into the future, Nintendo. That's the most important thing. Nobody really needs all the stuff that we all would have loved to have originally, like, I don't know, the ability to like set a wallpaper on your Switch or, do any little tiny thing that would be, a normal just user experience.
Yeah, I'm still like, at the end of the day, I'm always baffled by the decisions that they make. Now, clearly, they're making quite a bit of money. They have been for some time. Their console's selling like gangbusters. They've got tons of games being sold on the console as well. So, you can't really knock them in that regard. But when it comes to some of these features, like, come on, like, support your fan base, support the people that are actively buying these consoles, and give them like these key features that the competitors have.
Get rid of the friend code just entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
Entirely.
Why even have it? Like, it makes zero sense to me.
I think it's a way that, like,
maybe from like logistics purposes.
Can you
on
have the
back
same
ends.
name?
What do you mean?
Like, can I be Tom on my Switch with my Nintendo account and you be Tom on your Switch with your Nintendo account? But because we have unique friend codes, we can still add each other, where it's like there's only one Tom on Xbox. He is the only Tom.
I mean, maybe that's the reason for the friend codes. Like, everybody's a number versus like these unique identifiers that are set up. But like, I don't know, man. I like the idea of having like a username. Maybe it is like what you're saying. You have a username that you can utilize.
But maybe they don't want
games.
kids to sit there and have to be like Tommy13334 because all the other Tommies are taken, and little Tommy just wants to play Kirby, man.
Yeah.
Why are you stressing Tommy out?
Yeah, and I guess, to your point, though, if you had like usernames on the front end, and so you could be Ryan, I could be John, and there could be a million other Johns and Ryans that are on Nintendo, but on the back end, we've got our unique friend code that could be utilized for like our own purposes for Nintendo. Kind of like a social security in a sense, right?
Yeah.
You got your social security number. There's tons of Johns out there, but I've got a social that's going to be different than that other John. So maybe that's part of it. Like, maybe that's down the road, something they can do. I like the idea of just having straight up gamer tags or usernames or whatever you want to call it. And it's kind of unique in that sense that it allows people to, kind of get a feel for who they're playing with, or those friends can, have fun with those usernames. And I think Nintendo cracks down on enough stuff anyways. They're not going to have any problem with like nasty usernames and such.
Yeah.
So I don't see what the big holdup is. I think that's something they need to change at some point in time. And dude, it's such a pain in the ass to remember your friend code. Like, I don't
just
know
take a picture.
Yeah, I don't know my friend code. Like, I have to log in via my email and then figure it out that way.
Now you can view it yourself.
Now I can view it myself. Yeah.
Thanks to this wonderful update.
Yeah. All right. So the last piece of our episode here is our inflation deflation, and we played Pieces. And this is Prism. What is that? Kikaku? Is that what that says? Is it developer?
It is
Prism Kikaku.
Prism Kikaku.
That's what I see with my
It
glasses.
was published by Atlus USA, directed by Koichi Kitazumi. This released in December of 94. It is a puzzle game. Not only is it a puzzle game, it is a literal puzzle game where you just put together puzzles. It's a 1v1 head-to-head. I think it's like a 5x6? So that'd be like 30-piece puzzle.
Something like that, or 5x7. It's about 5x7, actually.
5x7 maybe. So it's not very large puzzles, but you just go up at the top of the screen. You've got 3 pieces that it'll give you to select from. Grab it, drag it down into the play field. It's kind of mousy, kind of aligned to a grid. Like, John was having a hard time. Originally, he was playing on the Retron
joystick
with
controller.
the joystick controller and having a hard time with it. Even once he upgraded to an original Super Nintendo controller, I still whooped him. But
Yeah.
I've put together many puzzles in the last year.
Yeah, Ryan's like, I put together 6 puzzles this year. I'm like, I put together 0. So
My wife's super into puzzles.
yeah, my wife too. We just haven't played them or used them. I mean, not
See,
played
that's the thing. Like, are puzzles a game? This is the first time I've ever played a puzzle that was like a game, unless you count, like, I don't know, people put sliding block puzzles in games, but I don't think they themselves are games.
I think it depends on what you're doing the puzzle for. Like, are you looking at it from I want to complete this puzzle in a certain amount of time? Am I looking to make this puzzle for like artwork purposes so I can hang it on my wall? Am I doing it just for the pure like
if I invited you to my house and I was like, hey, you want to come play a game? And you're like, yeah. And you came over and I had like a puzzle on the table. Would you be confused, or would you be like, yeah, that's a game?
I would turn around and go, I'm out.
So, I mean, the head-to-headness of like racing to finish these simple puzzles that you could see beforehand. And I mean, it even sometimes was like difficult, like to be able to tell, what piece was supposed to go where. And you'd be like, you get frustrated because like once the piece, you misplacing it, it goes like back into your draw pile. It doesn't just go right back up to the top where you keep trying the same piece over and over again. So like, I think that's a good design element of this game. I could see This being a much worse game if you could just keep grabbing the same piece and misplacing it over and over, because you're not going to get anywhere quick doing that. So there was a bunch of icons on the side too. We didn't really mess around with those, so I don't know what all those did, but those might have been like
enhancements,
something we should have done.
Yeah, we didn't really mess with those, but we probably should have.
I had fun. I like this.
I kind of had fun getting my ass whooped. So the reception on this game, EGM actually gave it an 8.2, and I was shocked by that, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, there's not much on here. I think it was like in some top 50 of like the games released in the last 2 years or something. Some weird arbitrary list from back in the day. Somebody just like, scoured the internet to make this tiny wiki on this. So we don't have a lot to go on, but I enjoyed it. I think that for people who like to put puzzles together, I think this would be a fun game to play with somebody like that. Like, my wife really digs puzzles. I think this would be a game if we sat down and played together, she would have a good time.
Yeah. And, there's multiple modes on this. You have like a single player mode against computer, 1v1. And they also have like an all play mode where it has all of the different variations of puzzles that you can go through, and then like a time limit. Where you can build, I guess, as many puzzles as you can try and build within that time frame.
Yeah,
so,
I did see online that it was up to 6 players, it said.
I'm not sure. I don't know how you would do that with the Super Nintendo, and not necessarily do it with the Super Nintendo, but do it with this particular game. It would just be really weird to have 6 puzzles on screen at the same time. That's got to be really small, especially when you consider the size of TVs back then.
Multiplayer up to 5.
Even that's still crazy, man.
Why would it be 5?
Yeah, not an even number, and on top of that, it's just odd. I guess if you had an adapter that allowed you to do 4, and then the first player controller. But down to brass tacks. A loose copy of this game is currently running at $33.34. It peaked at $38.64 in May of 2021, like everything else in the market. It is trending up, which is kind of weird. And then a complete in-box copy is running at $113.75. That peaked at $149 in November of 2016, and it is holding its current price point. Ryan, I liked the game to an extent. You kicked my ass in this one. I think if I was to play this on my own against a computer, or just play it against somebody else who may not be as good, while it can be competitive, I cannot see myself playing this more than a few sit-down sessions.
Yeah, this is not a long-term attention-holding kind of game.
Yeah.
Nor would I say that it is worth $33.
No, I think
this is an inflated game.
Yeah, for sure it's inflated. That is a good segue into our episode next week, where we should be doing some SNES collecting on a budget, and you can put that $33 towards some much better games. Ryan, any final thoughts?
I like puzzles.
That is a good final thought. This has been episode 174 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.
Oh, better game idea. Building Legos in racing in a game. That would be better. 3D, but this game.
I guess that's the final thought. Thanks for listening.